Like in terms of my top tips, while I could probably delve into some of the specifics, I think overarching setting the scene, even before you even think about anything about scenario testing or anything like that. And my top tip would be training to start. Operational resilience really is a shift in the mindset. You're seeing some of the questions come through there where there is confusion in terminology, things like what's the difference between business continuity, BIAs versus mapping, all those sorts of things. So I think a really strong training up front is really, really important to level set with your entire organization so that people
Mhm.
will be involved in, these exercises later on. They're aware of the nuances and the differences between the two. So that's, for me, top tip number one. That training should also be delivered at all levels. So, we just discussed the board there, and, competency at the board in terms of understanding resilience and being able to ask the right questions of an organization's resilience. I think that's so, so key as well. So another overarching point would be the right people in the room. So often, this takes two sort of components to it. So you need to have your SMRs. So particularly when you're talking about, certain applications or certain operations when you're doing your mapping. It's really, really important that you have the people who are the experts on that area, on that critical operation in the room, rather than just, oh, we're not sure. We'll fill in the blanks here a little bit, and then you kind of spin your wheels a bit. So that's really, really important. Identifying them early on, it makes for a far more efficient process. In terms of as you're going through the life cycle components, one of the things that we also really re-emphasize is a rationale. So, while you might develop criteria for, your critical operations, of how you've identified those, and that may change over time, but what's really, really important is you document your rationale. You explain how you arrived at those rather than just, this is, we've picked them from here. So, a strong rationale is really, really important. In terms of particular pitfalls, I think from the life cycle components, I think mapping can be a huge, banana peel. I think firms often underestimate this and think that it's just quite a simple approach. It can actually be really, really complex. So I would urge firms to, pay particular attention to how they map the depth they map in. There's a bit of a Goldilocks approach there. If you go too high, you're not going to get the right information, and if you go too low, it can become very, very redundant very quickly and very onerous. And then I think finally, in terms of actually implementing a program, well, a lot of people may be used to the sort of work stream approach. Another interesting approach that we've seen, and one that we particularly like, is a pilot approach. So you'd identify your operations and then you run through a pilot. Often we've seen that if you do a work stream approach, that you can get stuck, we'll say, on mapping, and then that causes a log jam for all your subsequent activities. So yeah, certainly a pilot approach. It allows you to be a little bit more agile. You're able to adapt as you complete one operation. You can refine your approach for the following ones.